Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Last Sun. This is Last Sun Gaming, and this is day 4 of the developer journal from TEW9. So I'm hoping you guys are enjoying these daily looks at these videos. Today's videos are going to cover some things like real world calendars and multi-day events. So let's just head right in and let's talk about some of these things. So the first thing is the real world calendar. So it's a change that he thinks is going to be very well received. They're going to move to a real world calendar, sort of like what Pro Wrestling Sim does right now. So instead of working and worrying about the weeks and everything, it's going to be a real world calendar. He has a Q&A and another forum post that mentioned that the game has been in development for over 18 months. So they ripped up all of the underlying architecture, changed everything to work with a calendar. So this is going to have, an effect on the game in every way. So it uses Windows inbuilt calendar. It can handle multiple formats. So you can type in July 4th, 2024, or 2024-7-4, or 4th of July, 2024. It's going to understand what you're referring to. They recommend that you use the international standard of 4 digits for the year, 2 for the month, 2 for the day, to avoid any kind of ambiguity and issues with people from different areas of the world that use the different standards, knowing what date you mean. So another thing you see is a calendar icon whenever you see a date input. So this will launch a pop-up calendar, so you can just simply click on the date you want. You don't have to input it always, type it in. You can just pick what you want from a calendar icon. So that's a nice change. The converter is going to try to do a best guess when turning a TEW database into one for TEW9. The result will be immediately playable, but it does mean if you want absolute precision in your database, it's going to require quite a bit of work. There's going to be tools they're going to be bringing out. It's going to help with that task. They're going to be discussed in a future entry, he mentions. And he also says the real world calendar wasn't used previously because a flexible event scheduling system sometimes can cause inconsistencies, events drifting out of place. And now they've created a system they hope that's elegant, easy to use to solve this problem. So the new scheduling system, bi-weekly events and avoiding holidays is the next feature reveal. So there's now 5 settings that work in harmony. Your schedule, that's what we do right now. So you can choose whether it's an annual, weekly, etc. They also added by request a bi-weekly schedule setting. So the second one's positioning. So you can use the exact same date. So it happens every year on the exact same date. Like if you want to run a July 4th Independence Day show, you just set it for every exact same date. It's going to remember that every 4th of July, you're going to run an event. You can have different combinations like the first Monday of the month, 4th Sunday of the month, last Friday of the month, etc. So third is going to be positioning shifts. You can add plus or 1 value from 1 to 31 days. So it's going to work in conjunction with positioning. So if you want to show on Black Friday, they're saying you would use the 4th Thursday of the month and a shift of plus 1 day to create the effect of the day after Thanksgiving. This is needed because sometimes, as they mention here, the 4th Friday of the month is not necessarily the day after the 1st or the 4th Thursday of the month. It just depends on what day the month starts on. So the next piece of it is base month. That's just going to be where this anchors the event to this month. So you always want it to happen in July, or you want it to happen in September, etc. And then they're going to avoid is the next thing, which is going to be like you can avoid holidays, and they have a list of American holidays, British holidays, etc. So now you can get that little bit of realism so that you can make sure the event doesn't fall on a major holiday. So it's gonna seem like it's gonna be some work, but once you have it or the database has it set up, they say it rarely needs looking at again. Everything's going to be handled automatically by the game and moves the schedule along as time passes. So the converter is going to use a best guess to take the 2020 data and make it playable immediately. Anybody who wants absolute precision is going to need to do some editing. They have the tools that they keep mentioning. I've talked to some database makers. They're kind of leery about this right now. They keep hearing a lot of work, a lot of work, a lot of work. And I understand. I'm not a database maker. I'm just a person who plays and enjoys all the databases they make, and know that they're already a lot of work to keep up to date, to keep adding workers and making sure events are looking good, titles are looking good, the titles are correct, the lineages are correct. I know it's a lot of work already. So them adding all this stuff and adding more work to these guys, I feel for them. A lot of them are taking a let's wait and see. Unfortunately, they get that week of the beta. So they're going to get it. They're going to get to look at it. They probably will. Some of them may start right away making mods, but I think it's going to be a little bit before we get a, real world update or any historical updates. I mean, you might be able to take some of those databases from TEW 2020 that we have currently, run them through the converter. It'll spit out a TEW 9 eligible game, and it may work fine. It may not be as precise as you want, but it may work for your purposes. But I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit before we see any real world, games, any databases based on the real world. They may have to catch up. So they're hoping these 5 settings can guarantee the events happen when they should, and still retaining that flexibility of scheduling. So they also mention if you happen to have a event you want to schedule for like leap day, it's going to know that, and it's handled every leap year you'll have the event. It's going to be handled in the game. So the next thing they're going to talk about is multi-day events. So it's those new situations like 2-day WrestleManias. They've done in the past. New Japan has done 2-day Wrestle Kingdoms. So it's just basically going to be you set them up with the multi-day tag event, name it WrestleMania. As long as it's on successive days and share that tag, it's going to be considered part of the same series. Any number of linked events can be linked this way. They just have to be from a single company. And they don't even need to be held in the same place each night. It's not kind of realistic for WrestleMania where they usually have it set up in a stadium, and that's each day is going to be that. SummerSlam is apparently turning into one where they're going to do 2 days. Like I think it starts in Minnesota next year is a 2-day event. So this will help those database makers make a realistic, 2-day event. And this next part is going to be the reason why it's going to be because if you try to do it now and you have somebody on day 1 of the event but not day 2, they could cause problems and complain about not being on the event. Same thing, missing day 1 but they're on day 2. They were on WrestleMania. They were just either on day 1 or day 2. Now, the company, they're going to look at it and they're going to take the complaints and they're going to review them after the series ends. So that way, if you leave somebody off the first night, but they were on the second night, the initial complaint won't take place because they understand that they were used on the second night. Or if they were not on the first night, or they were on the first night but not on the second night, same situation. The only time it's going to be, bad for you is if you leave them off both nights. And apparently it's going to have a, more powerful event happen because you left them off both nights. So that's kind of cool how they're doing that, because that means we won't have workers getting upset at us because we did use you on WrestleMania. It was just on one day of the WrestleMania. It's not usually both days. So that's going to be a nice feature. It's going to come into play when calculating how many shows a worker has been left off. It's going to take that series as a single event, not multiple events. It's also going to take it for when you overusing things like that for as well. And another thing they've done is you can't just throw 5 or 6 day events and have them decline in quality over time just to game the system. The crowd will become annoyed if the quality dips over time. So hopefully this will turn out like they hope, and there's not going to be any unforeseen problems with this. We'll find out July 27th. They're going to have on this day. It's just basically going to tell you things that's happened in this day in history. Legendary matches, title changes, births, and deaths. It can be preset in the editor for database makers who want to add history, which will be really nice. It may take some time to get all that history into the database. I don't know how these guys will handle it. They're going to have other TV dates. So the TV system has been upgraded, the scheduling system, I should say, so that database makers now have a lot more precision over when they run. So it's going to be able to simulate realistic TV schedules. Venue list. Full list of venues and locations in each region is now going to be available from the Game World screen. Previously, there wasn't an easy way to see that. So it may help some people. You're going to have a mass editor. It's going to be updated to allow a lot of date-related things to be edited. So that's nice. Anniversary reminders. Your personal assistant's going to remind you when significant anniversaries are going to come up. So your 10th anniversary, let's have a show, and then suddenly you missed your 10th anniversary in the game's past because you didn't write it down or you lost track of things. Now that personal assistant will remind you, hey, the 10th anniversary is coming up, let's schedule a show. Improving cardio is going to be, and now you can apply worker pressure on workers to improve their cardio using the post-show speech system. That was a request by the community. Importing lineages of titles is also now in. That's a request. Importing move sets. So now you can import moves that are move sets as long as you set them up. It's going to be a quality of life change that saves database makers time, I think, because instead of doing it manually, you can just import a move set. So that's nice. And then you're going to have random starting time or starting absence time. So you can now give a value of random for the time remaining of starting absences. And then that was a request, by database makers who didn't like having to pick a specific date. So for example, now Roman Reigns is gone. You could set it up now to do a random date of time remaining instead of actually having to pick a time. So that would add that little bit of, what's the word I'm looking for? Randomness and to your game. Everybody's Roman Reigns would come back at different times potentially. I think it's a good change. Some of these changes I think are coming from some of the changes or some of the new features competition has made, like the real calendar. People love that from Pro Wrestling Sim. And so competition is good. I think it's going to be great. It's going to push all these games better, and the people who are going to benefit is us players. So we'll see how this all plays out. I know July 27th is going to be a big day for TEW 9. Hopefully get that beta, start messing around with it, making some videos to let you guys see it. And this will be, for me personally, the first cycle of games that I went from one to the next one immediately. I started in 2010, TEW 2010. Played that for a very long time. Didn't upgrade to 2013 or 16. Upgraded to 2020. I've since went back and purchased 2016 because a lot of people say that's the best of the system. I know that's just an opinion. Everybody's going to have their best. Some people think 2020 is the best. But so I've been playing 2016 a little bit. But this will be the first time I went from like one version of the game to the next version of the game. So I am kind of excited to see how that change goes. That week is going to be kind of crazy because I heard last time going from 2016 to 2020 was almost a year of beta, and now they're condensing all that into one week. So we'll see how that goes. It might get extended. It may not, though. With the game being developed 18 months, they're building on TEW 2020. We may actually only get that week of the beta, and it may, be a game that's very polished. And the bugs that they have are going to be small, and they'll be easily squashed. And I have high hopes right now. We'll have to see. I know a lot of the database makers out there are not happy right now. They're kind of leery. They're worried that this is going to make things even harder to make databases for the game. And apparently that's a trend that's been happening over the last iterations of the game. They've been making it harder and harder to make the databases. So make sure you guys can leave comments on these databases and forum posts. Make sure you show them some love, because it's a very difficult job. I'm assuming it's already time consuming, and it's going to become even more time consuming. Hopefully this tool they keep mentioning will help a little bit with the making of databases. But show them love. I mean, they don't get paid for this, and they do it out of a labor of love for the community. So let's, try to also be a little understanding when the real world mods might take time when TEW 9 comes out. So, guys, I hope you liked the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, give me some comments. What are you guys looking forward to? What are you guys not looking forward to? Are you even going to switch from 2020? Are you going to stay with 2020 until maybe 9 becomes stable, or maybe till you see what 9 really has to offer? But I'm Last Son. Have a wonderful day. And for the American fans of mine, happy Independence Day. Have a good, safe 4th of July. I'll see you guys in our next video, which will be day 5 of the Developer's Journal.